Welcome back to Talking Europe. Well, I'm very pleased to welcome as my guest Elmar Brok, who is one of the most prominent members in the European Parliament and in the European institutions here in Brussels. He's held numerous leadership positions, both within his party in Germany, that's the conservative CDU, and within the European Parliament. Here, perhaps he's best known for his role as chairman of the European Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs. Welcome back to France 24, Mr. Brok. I wanted to ask you, first of all, a question about Germany, because obviously you know Angela Merkel very well. You also know Martin Schulz well, her challenger from the SPD. He used to be the president of the parliament here. How are you reading her chances versus his chances in the German election?
I think the Schulz hype has already stopped. The opinion polls are changing again in the direction of Angela Merkel. And it shows that she is without any hectic. She goes forward. She is running the country, not campaigning. And I think this finds people in a time of tensions and challenges very satisfying. They feel secure in her hands. And therefore, it looks so that the Social Democrats will become stronger than they were before. That is good for a country. But that Merkel's party will be even stronger, so that she might continue and will continue as Chancellor of Germany.
Do you not feel that there's sort of resistance among voters to yet another term? This is now, what, the fourth, or would be if she wins? Time for change. You're not really getting a sense of that from the ground?
That is indeed a problem. But on the other side, Martin Schulz has not delivered many question without have more morale in his own party. But for the overall, he has not come up with proposals until now, and we are in a situation of real challenges. In such moment, when there are real challenges and threats, people like to elect the experienced leader.
I want to ask you about an important event which is coming up, the first round of the French presidential election. And we seem to have seen a sort of fraying of the relationship between Paris and Berlin, a perhaps slightly less active France in the Franco-German couple. How would you rate that relationship now that President Hollande is almost at the end of his term? Are you disappointed? Are you pleased with what's happened?
Look, we are a little bit disturbed about this French election campaign and the scandals we see and what is discussed there. But if I see the two candidates in the center right, center left, Macron, Fillon, then I would say with both Europe and Germany could live. And I believe that Mr. Macron, with his clearly pro-European concept, is also a good partner for Germany. And what we need is now to have a partner in Paris, which again makes it credible that there is the joint German-French leadership. It's decisive for Europe. Germany does not want to lead alone. Therefore, we are really looking for a strong partner in the Élysée.
And how does François Fillon fit into that? I mean, has he been basically sort of given up on, shall we say, by the CDU in the light of his problems at home? Is Macron now basically the hope,
I think that is not a
informally?
decision. François Fillon is the candidate of our partner party. Yeah. And therefore, we stick to that partnership for sure. But we see the problems he faces. And if they would be in the second round, Monsieur Macron, which we do not know so much, but good enough to know what his pro-European program is, his reform program, so that this would be a great chance also to cooperate for Europe with President Macron.
I want to come on to some of the challenges that the EU is facing both inside and outside of it, particularly to do with authoritarian politics or illiberal politics. You've been quite outspoken on this, both on the issue of the Hungarian government and the Turkish governments at the moment. And one thing which is we've been very interested in France 24 is this new Hungarian law that was adopted that apparently targets freedom of thought in universities. I want us just to have a quick look at a report first and then get your reactions to that.
For the 70,000 Hungarians who filled downtown Budapest on April 9th, the fight over Central European University is also a fight for the future of their country.
Let education be free, let knowledge be free, and let thought be free. Let Hungary be free.
A restrictive new law passed by Viktor Orban's government targets universities with international links. It would force CEU, a prestigious university which awards degrees in both New York and Hungary, to change its name and open a campus in the US. CEU was founded by the Hungarian-American billionaire and philanthropist George Soros in 1991 to aid the country's transition from communism. Today, the university has 1,400 students from 108 countries and presents itself as a champion of free speech. It says it's being targeted by the government for what it represents.
The current Hungarian government wants to silence pretty much everyone who thinks otherwise, who doesn't think the same as them, who thinks freely.
Orban once studied at Oxford on a Soros-funded scholarship, but he has since rejected the type of open society promoted by his former benefactor. Instead, he has called for, quote, illiberal democracy.
Elmar Brok, what do you think Europe's response should be to these developments? I mean, should, for example, one go so far as to try to take measures against Viktor Orban's party, which is part of the EPP group, which you're a member of as well?
I think that the Commission at the moment is checking what impact European policy can have, European law, because it's a difficult question that education is national competence. So that is a quite formal, difficult question to intervene in such a question. The second point is that the overall attitude, which comes also clearly in this questionnaire Viktor Orban has sent out to his citizens now, it shows that the question of a real democracy, which gives the chance for an opposition to win elections next time, it become more and more limited. And here I think Orban is going step by step too far.
There you're talking about this move to send out, to vote postally, which I suppose raises questions about transparency and how you determine whether the result was completely fair or not.
No, this is not a result which has any representative conditions. Because normal citizens will not send it back. We have seen it in the referendum, that less than 50% of the citizens went out for the referendum. This is the second try of that, and if 20% send a letter back where they have to make decisions 10 times between are you like to live or are you like to die, that is the type of question they have said there. It has absolutely no importance. It's an internal PR debate which has nothing to do with Europe, but it's more and more of a difficulty because of the explanations about Europe that he wants to get a reason towards Brussels that his citizens stop him to have more European policy, and I think it's the wrong approach.
But essentially you're saying that all that he's done so far, basically internal policy, therefore the EU can't intervene, it can only make statements about European values, and that's it.
No, I think we have to see where is European competences, where it comes to the real values, Article 7. It has to be proved, until now not. He was always able to go back if it was the judicial system, if it was the media policy. He followed the ruling of the European Court of Justice. He changed a little bit the legislation so that he was flexible enough always that he was not caught under these articles and under a breach of the European rules. And we see now how far it goes with that. But I believe this lack of openness for different opinions, which is behind that, it's not acceptable.
I want to ask you about Turkey. You've written and spoken a lot about the developments there. And I wonder if you would go so far as to say that the accession process with Turkey should actually be formally suspended. I mean, you've spoken of Turkey as no longer being a rule of law country. And obviously a country that isn't that can't join the EU.
That is true. Someone who does not follow the principles of the European Union, the political, judicial principles, the values, cannot become a member of the European Union because he does not fulfill the Copenhagen criteria. That is also one of the reasons why these negotiations were so delicate and so slowly. But now we see that Erdogan is moving again in the other direction, against such principles, which is make it less probable that Turkey can join the European Union. That it's very clear, but it does not mean that not in other questions we can have a cooperation with Turkey.
Well, and one of those areas is obviously migration and visa-free travel. Of course, Turkey still keeps repeating that the EU has failed to deliver on its side of the bargain. Have you been seeing here any progress on visa liberalization that was supposed to happen by now or not yet?
I think Turkey has agreed to around 68 of the 72 conditions. The question of terrorism and what can be done with that, there is not yet an answer, and therefore we cannot close that file. But visa liberalization itself would be a good thing. If young Turks could come more to Europe, it's good for democracy and our European ideas. And therefore, I would like still to follow it up, these questions. But we have to see that Turkey is, in a way, to become an autocratic system. An autocratic system can be partner in certain issues, but not partner as a future member of the European Union.
If we could move on to another very important topic, the transatlantic relationship in the light of Donald Trump's bombing of Syria earlier this month. Do you get a sense that this action, this new interventionism, has left Europe somehow stranded between the US and the Russian President, Vladimir Putin?
We are stranded since some time. Europe does not play a role when it comes to the real hard job. We are the global payers in this world and not a global player. We finance 60–70% of all the economic, humanitarian aid to that part of the world, but we have no influence because we have no hard power. Therefore, the development of European defense policy and security policy is of the utmost important, that in front of our own doors we can play a role. But on the other side, I see that Russia has stopped by becoming a partner in war with Assad. The peace negotiations in Geneva, now that the Americans show to him, you cannot go too far to try to win that battle militarily. And hopefully this will help now to bring also the Russians and Assad and others back to the negotiation table.
You were saying just a moment ago that one way for Europe to have more diplomatic weight could be to develop a stronger defense policy or a common defense policy. Would that not actually have, would that actually have any impact when it comes to Syria? Because in Syria, European defense is not really an issue as far as I can see, is it?
Not yet, because we have not the capabilities for that.
But it could be in theory.
But in theory, it would be a case, even if you do not use it. Yeah. If you have it and can show that you have it, you are taken more seriously. Yeah.
Do you think that the new US president would welcome that, a common European defense, as another layer to NATO, so to speak?
I'm not quite sure to that. He asked every individual member country to come to this 2% goals of more military spending. But that is the wrong approach, because we have to find synergistic effects between ourselves. The European member countries spend 200 billion euros per year for defense. That is more than double so much as Russia. With 1.5 million soldiers, we have more soldiers than the United States of America. But the result is disastrous, because we have no cooperation in planning and real planning. We have no cooperation in research, development and procurement. So we can do with the same amount of money much more if we come closer together here. This would be the way to strengthen the West.
So you would rather see that happening than a greater financial commitment to NATO?
It's not a financial commitment to NATO, it's a financial commitment to our national armies. But if I see that the armies in the European Union have 80% of costs, overhead costs, then it does not make it any difference to spend more. The system is wrong. We have 38 different transport tanks in the European armies. It's a joke. It costs, everyone makes his own ammunition, if I can overdo it. But here come closer together within headquarters and using strongly the European Defence Agency to have common planning and production in weapons and. We could do with the same money much, much more and be there. And we should not fall in the trap of divide et impera,
Sorry, say that.
Dividit impera. It means divide and
sorry,
reign.
you were speaking Latin, yeah.
And reign, as Trump wants to do it in trade policy, for example. Together, we have still the capacities to be strong and play a role. Divided, the others will play with us.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, it sounds to me as though you're not sort of convinced by a new normalized Trump. I mean, you're still wary about the previous comments he's made about it would be good if other countries followed Britain, a divided European Union. You think that that's sort of where he really is, despite his more recent U-turns?
Look, my position was already there as Trump was not in office, because it's the right approach, and there's a broad majority in this House which is supporting it. But Trump woke many of us up in his remarks to NATO, his remarks to trade policy, and therefore we should use this to make it clear what it means if we are not united in the hand of others. We have to stick that the European Union and the member countries can look into the future jointly. And let me say one other remark. The Le Pens and the AfD and the Wilders of this world are playing Trump's and Putin's card to divide Europe in order to become vassals of Trump or Putin. This should be not our future.
We'll have to end it there. Thank you so much for being our guest on France 24, Elmar Brok. And that's all we have time for this edition of Talking Europe. Thanks for watching.